Hi David, how are you doing? So I've had a good listen through to the arrangement here, and I've got a few suggestions for you. I think it's sounding absolutely superb as it is, but there's a couple of things that you could try out when I send the project file back to you. So let's kick things off right from the start. So the first thing I noticed is this sound here. Now, if I just take this back out the way, this is sort of layering up some lower end percussion that you've got. And if I play it without that sound, you can hear it still sounding really good, which means that what we can actually do is reserve this for a little bit later in the arrangement. So you can bring it in to add some more interest. We know already that it's working with the other sounds. And because it's got some higher frequencies, you could possibly use it maybe somewhere like bar 33 where you want to emphasize and add a little bit more energy. You've got a bit of a breakdown happening here anyway, so it's a good opportunity to drop a new sound in like this. I think that would probably work well. We'll check that out in a second. And if we go back to the beginning here, so there's quite a lot of stuff coming in here, and I'm actually thinking because you've got 16 bars with no changes happening at the start, you might want to bring this sound in. Now, I had a listen to this one earlier. So it's a really stripped back pattern that you've got there, and it's cutting through the mix really nicely. So that would work very, very well in the mix for a DJ, for example. When they're playing the track, you can clearly hear there's a new track coming in when you get a sound like that, but it's not overbearing, so it'll cut nicely through the mix. Now, in order to introduce it, let's just look at dropping a kick or so out here that might help. And in fact, we'll go for the one at the beginning of the bar. Often creates a nice sort of stuttered feel. Okay, so that's working well. I still think that it probably needs another sound around it just to help ease it into the mix. Over the next week, we're going to be looking at designing special effects as well as the breakdown. So it might be an idea to add a few little bits and pieces here just to help that sound come into the arrangement. So this is still quite full on at this stage. And I think, again, we've got an upper bass layer here. Can probably be pulled back out of the way. Yeah, so there's plenty going on there. That's working really well as it is. And let's again, you've taken some claps out, so let's match those and just drop the kick out. It'll also help the sound effect that you've put in there to shine through. So it's a delay, I think, that you've got. So the hats are working nicely there. Okay, so this bass happens to be working really nicely, being dropped in at bar 41 here, because there's another sound that comes in. I think it might be these tech bass stabs. Let's try these. No, in fact, it could even be our percussion that we move back. Yeah, it is. So with this sound coming in, the tech bass is again a layer to that. So it sort of emphasizes it halfway through your breakdown, which is working really well. You could look at easing the, I think it's squeaky you've called this. You could look at easing this in with some automation. And then when this comes in again, it will just sort of be building up. Then this will drop in, then that will build up again until you get to the actual drop where your beats come back in. Now let's just have a listen to this sound. Okay, so I think this could have a little bit more bite if we just look at pushing up the depth control. You can hear it sort of adding that extra knocky sort of punch that it needs. And let's have a listen. So I know what might be a good idea here, which could be to actually automate this depth as well. So if we just pull that down, we'll have that ease in. So the idea would be you could try having this percussive layer ease in, and when it's at full flow, then the tech bass drops in on top of that. Then that also builds up until we get to the drop section here. Okay, I think there's some kind of glitch going on here. It's probably this. Let's have a look. So that's, yeah, it's your frequency. It's just dropping down and catching the end of that note. So let's just quickly put that in line. So a couple of suggestions here. We've got this section running and it's going very, very well. You've got some automation in there. I think it's actually probably on that tech bass sound, certainly on one of the bass sounds. So that's keeping things interesting there. Then we get to this section. I think the percussive stabs can come up in volume a little bit. They're just a little bit shy of everything else. Yeah, so that's a bit better. And also we've got a couple of things coming in with very little sort of introduction to these sounds. So the ride does seem like it's jumping in from nowhere. Now, one good way to disguise sounds that are coming in is to use a transition that uses the same frequencies. So if we were going to look at adding something to bring the rides in, for example, you might want to use some white noise. So if I give you an example of what I'm talking about, I found a sound a little bit earlier that will work well here because it's really already very, very filtered noise. I'm just going to take the volume of it down because it's bound to be far too loud, and you're actually looking for something a little bit more subtle here rather than shoehorning a huge effect in. So let's have a look. We've just cut the end of this off. So in order to make it the same length, which is an equal number of bars here, 4 bars, I'm just going to consolidate with a little section on the end to make up for the fact that I cut off the area that had been probably swept in with a filter in the sample pack. And let's duplicate that out, reverse this one, and then we can just glue it at the beginning here, and then use the volume fades option just to have this come in a lot more subtly and go out in the same manner. So let's give this a try. So I'm just going to add a little bit more volume on that, I think, and we'll probably have it come in a bit more like that. So it just helps to smooth that over a little bit there. And as I say, you can use any transition you want. Really just wanted to drop that in to give you an idea of what I'm talking about. with this section, we're losing a little bit of energy again, just because the rides are going out, and it's nice the way that they're dropped out so they can come back in again just to build up for that moment where we hit the breakdown. But again, it could be a good idea to grab something like the noise and bring that across. Probably, I think actually this could be fairly short at this stage. It's a really nice build up into the breakdown. We won't cover this in this video because the next week is focusing entirely on breakdowns and special effects. So this entire section is yet to be built, I'd imagine, as well. You've just got a little bit in there. So let's dive straight over and carry on with the drop. So this is all about these percussive stabs, as well as, I think there's another sound, it might be this percussion here if I remember rightly. So this is working really nicely at this stage with the groove, but I think that over this entire section, I think up to about bar 161, nothing else changes. There's no real additions or any modulation happening. And I think as the focal attention now is on this collision perk, it would be a good idea to start modulating that. Now, if you leave it for around 4 bars, that will give everybody the time to get back into the groove, recognize the track, you know, and all of the parts that came before. But after that, the attention starts to wander a little bit unless things are constantly changing in the track. So it's a good idea to leave it for a while just to solidify the groove again, and then you can start adding some modulation. I think this sound is absolutely perfect for all manner of different things. I'd just go crazy with that, be creative, you know, use delays, filters, frequency shifters, all sorts, just to see if you can come out with some really interesting modulation for this percussive element. And then we're on the way to the outro there, which I've already had a listen, as I say, through, and there's absolutely, you know, no problem whatsoever at that end of the track. So there are a few different suggestions in there for you to try out, have a go, see what you think. As always, any questions, feel free to drop me an email. Otherwise, I'll look forward to catching up with you in the online chat. All the best then, take care.